Megastructures are massive engineering undertakings and can take years, even decades, to complete. From the ancient Egyptian pyramids to their modern counterparts, let's begin today's video. Here are 15 of the world's most incredible megastructures. Number 15. Abraj al-Bait. The holy city of Mecca sees millions and millions of Muslim pilgrims a year making their Hajj, or pilgrimage. And while the photos of the masses all gathered in white to pray can be awe-inspiring, a savvier mind will ask themselves, where do all these people stay? The Abraj al-Bait is a series of structures, skyscrapers, hotels, and even a clock tower dedicated to housing the holy. The 7 skyscrapers that make up this megastructure are all owned and operated by the Saudi Arabian government, which is no stranger to lavish and extravagant buildings. It is the crown jewel of the King Abdulaziz Endowment Project, which looks to modernize the Middle Eastern country and rake in piles of cash year over year to add even more amazing amenities. It takes up a whopping 16 million square feet of space, and the construction has run up a bill of about $15 billion. Aside from a hotel that can accommodate roughly 10,000 people at a time across 5,000 rooms, the megastructure also includes a 5-story shopping center filled with all of the biggest name brands in the world and multiple prayer rooms. The Abraj al-Bait is for everyone, except for the top 5 floors. Those floors are occupied by a 5-star luxury hotel that only the best of the best and the richest of the rich can stay in. VIP only in there. Number 14. Maiden One Mall. You can't talk about Middle Eastern megastructures without talking about Dubai. And while the Burj Khalifa may be tall enough to knock on heaven's door, the city in the Emirates has some spectacular projects closer to the ground. While the heyday of the American mall may be long gone, the Maiden One Mall in Dubai is looking to turn things around a bit and put Dubai on the map as a major tourist destination. The Mega Mall is in the uber-upscale district of Medan and was originally set for an opening that coincided with the World Expo, but things slowed down when the world came to a halt for a moment. The mall is part of the Dubai 2030 plan, with Phase 1 of the megastructure already complete. You can find literally every store under the sun here, and the mall feels like it functions more as a city than it does a shopping center. Even if you hate shopping, it's a great place to come and cool off and escape that desert heat. And speaking of cooling off, Maiden One Mall is also home to the world's largest indoor ski slope. Yeah, that sounds pretty awesome, especially for a place that doesn't really see winter, let alone snow. The ski slope is over a half a mile long and part of the much larger Winter Village section, so folks can get the Christmas time experience year-round. And if that doesn't get your mouth watering, then just think of the 100 restaurants all vying for your attention. Number 13. First World Hotel and Plaza. The largest hotel in the world also happens to be one of the goofiest looking megastructures in the world. Malaysia's First World Hotel and Plaza holds a total of 8,584 rooms across 3 towers. And yes, it technically is a hotel, but the real emphasis is on the plaza. They've made the entire megastructure so that you really never have to leave, and went so far as to include a full amusement park. You're looking at multiple theme parks, both outdoor and indoor, so you can go on the rides even during the monsoon season. After every rainstorm, there's a rainbow, which is fitting because the First World Hotel and Plaza's paint job seems to have covered every color in the color wheel. But if theme parks are a little too thrilling, then there are multiple movie theaters, 20 bowling alleys, shopping centers, bars, and restaurants. You name it, they've got it. They've managed to make the First World Hotel the perfect place for both families and solo travelers alike to get the most out of their trip. And the chances of anyone doing the same thing twice here are slim to none. Honestly, there's just so much to do. But perhaps the coolest feature of the hotel is the Virtual Reality Center, which provides all sorts of VR experiences and hopefully nurtures the imaginations of tomorrow's dreamers and inventors. Number 12. Khan Shatir Entertainment Center. There's 1-person, 2-person, even 10-person tents to maximize space and comfort out in the wilderness. But what about a tent that's nearly 500 feet high? Standing at a jaw-dropping 490 feet tall, the Khan Shatir Entertainment Center is the largest tent in the world. And while you won't be camping out in there, there's still plenty to keep you comfy and happy. The incredibly tall tent can be found in Nur Sultan, the capital of Kazakhstan, which is known for its unforgiving heat and humidity, which is why they keep the tent so cool, literally. Think of it as an oasis to beat the heat and spend some cash on the side. The entertainment center adopts a neo-futuristic architectural style and doesn't look anything like the cityscape. It really is a standout, with the base of the structure alone covering 1.5 million square feet. But even the tent's interior is larger than 10 American football stadiums. But aside from all the shops and restaurants, the center seems to function much like its own city as well, with music and entertainment venues, a river where you can rent boats, a full-scale park, town squares, cobblestone streets, and a mini golf course, even an indoor beach resort, all under one roof. The Khan-Shatir Entertainment Center is a world-changing megastructure that has altered the lives and culture of many locals and breathed new life into the country. Number 11. International Space Station. Not all megaprojects need to be on Earth. Not all of them need to be in the sky either. In fact, there's one megastructure that's been watching over all of us for decades now, and it only gets bigger every year. Forging a path through the final frontier, the International Space Station, or ISS, weighs 460 tons, is the size of an American football field, and floats above us 240 miles above Earth. It took 5 teams from 15 countries to construct this masterclass in engineering, which all started in 1984. So then maybe the ISS is just really Big Brother, watching us from the stars and keeping humanity on track. The ISS is so big that construction couldn't even be completed on Earth, seeing as how there are no rockets in existence that could even dream of propelling it to its great height. Everything needed to be launched piece by piece and then slowly assembled in the dark and silent void of space. Astronauts and cosmonauts have made trips back and forth between the Earth and the ISS, even living up there for the past 20 years or so to develop and prepare the station for research and exploration. And you can rest assured that more additions to the ISS will be made as time goes on. Number 10. Beijing Daxing International Airport. The most populated country in the world, China, has a population of nearly 1.5 billion people, and that number's only growing every day. So when you have such a high population, you need the infrastructure to accommodate them. Enter the Beijing Daxing International Airport. Nicknamed the Starfish for its unique design, this international airport is young, having just been completed in 2019 and beginning operations that same year. This megastructure is absolutely huge. The largest terminal here is 7.5 billion square feet on another 18 square miles of land, making it the largest single-building airport terminal in the world. The entire endeavor cost well over $11 billion, but the project just took 5 years to build. When it comes to putting up infrastructure quickly, China knows exactly what they're doing. And the opening of the airport was so monumental that President Xi Jinping was even in attendance. But what's always the worst part of an international airport? The bathroom. But not here, because in 2020, Beijing Daxing was awarded for having the best airport hygiene measures in the Asia-Pacific area. It's the little things that count. Nobody likes flying, but if you get to fly into Beijing Daxing International Airport, then consider yourself lucky. Number 9. Jeddah Tower. Jeddah Tower in Saudi Arabia is the tallest tower in the world, only it hasn't been built yet. Quickly looking to outdo the Burj Khalifa, the Jeddah Tower aims a bit higher, with a planned height of just under 3,300 feet and 252 stories. This multi-purpose megastructure will have all sorts of fancy condominiums, offices, shops, and restaurants galore across 2.6 million square feet of space. If all goes to plan, Jeddah Tower will encompass a 5-star Four Seasons hotel, 97 full-service apartments, and another 325 more modest abodes. And you better believe that even the elevators here are going to be crazy, with plans for them to travel over 2,000 feet up into the building, allowing you to get from the first floor to the penthouse in a little over a minute. It has the potential to be the fastest long elevator ride in the world. The only catch here is that the construction of the Jeddah Tower came to a grinding halt in 2018. It's not even halfway done. The project had some issues from the get-go, with both laborers and the governing political bodies landing themselves in hot water, which caused everything to stop. As it stands now, no one really knows for sure when the Jeddah Tower will be completed and ready to open its doors to the general public, but when it does, it will have an observation deck even higher than that of the Burj Khalifa. Just don't look down. Number 8. Central Park Jakarta Complex. New York City has and will always be a hotspot. It's where people go to find and sometimes even lose their fortunes. But no matter which way the tide turns, someone will always want a piece of the action. But if you live in a place like Southeast Asia, it's half a world away. Luckily for the rest of us, the Central Park Jakarta complex exists. How can I even begin to describe this massive megastructure? The complex is made up of a shopping mall, an office tower, apartment buildings, and a hotel. It may not sound like much, but all of this takes up well over 7 million square feet of space, making it the 10th largest building in the world based on floor area. This complex is not messing around, and as the name would imply, there's a gorgeous Central Park outdoor area that rivals its American namesake. The Central Park Jakarta complex was inaugurated in 2009 and quickly became one of the nation's biggest draws for both tourists and locals alike. And if you don't plan your trip to Jakarta very well and end up showing up during the monsoon season, that's okay, because the complex has a movie theater that plays both global blockbusters and domestic cinema. You can always catch the views of Central Park from above. Now, if only the complex had a central perk. Number 7. Abraj Kudai. Alright, we've seen quite a bit from the Middle East, but I'd be remiss to leave out the Abraj Kudai. This is another megastructure still under construction in Mecca. The Abraj Kudai is set to be the largest hotel in the world. More of a complex than a singular hotel, the Abraj Kudai will be made of a ring of 12 towers, covering almost 11 million square feet, all of them 45 stories high, and with a total of 10,000 bedrooms. Yeah, at this point, the hotel could probably be its own city. But that's not all. The plans for the most extravagant hotel the world has ever seen also include 70 restaurants and even 4 rooftop helipads. There's also 5 floors that will be built exclusively for the private use of the Saudi royal family. And while the odds of hotel guests rubbing shoulders with the royalty are slim to none, just knowing you're in the same building should make you feel like you're a king or a queen for a day. 10 out of the 12 towers will provide 4-star accommodations, but if you've got the cash, the remaining 2 towers will provide guests with 5-star accommodations and amenities. And while all of this may sound amazing, the project has run into a few speed bumps, mainly financial, as the estimated costs are closer to $4 billion. But seeing as how the location is revered by many as one of the holiest places in the world, the Abraj Kudai just might be worth the wait. Number 6. Midtown Manhattan Airport. It's one thing to be a has-been, but it's another thing entirely to be a never was. And unfortunately for the next megastructure on our list, it falls into the latter category. The Midtown Manhattan Airport was a proposed megastructure that, for many New Yorkers, thankfully never quite saw the light of day. The proposed structure goes back to the 1940s, when William Zeckendorf, owner of both the famous Astor Hotel and Chrysler Building, proposed a hefty $3 billion in which a 1,000-acre barge would sit on the Hudson River, 220 feet above street level, filled with businesses and ticket offices. The roof of the megastructure would hold an airport, and the space underneath the street level would be the perfect place for ships to anchor. And that $3 billion price tag, yeah, we didn't adjust that for inflation. Now, on paper, Zeckendorf was onto something. The airport would be able to accommodate up to 68 1940-era planes an hour, which isn't bad compared to JFK's 71 and LaGuardia's 89 per hour. And the biggest selling point was that Manhattanites wouldn't have to trek to what they like to call the outer boroughs for air travel. But with 3 airports already in the area and a dangerous airstrip that left little room for error lest you fall into the river, the Midtown Manhattan Airport never took off. Number 5. The Crossrail. The London Underground has been getting people from point A to point B since 1863, and while the tube may suffer from the occasional delay, things have been running pretty smoothly over the centuries. But London is taking things to the next level with their megastructure, the Crossrail. The initial proposal for the Crossrail dates back to the 1940s, but work has only recently begun, with the project just finding approval in 2007. The goal of this underground megastructure is to provide commuters with a high-frequency train that crosses the capital from west to east and terminates in London. And by high frequency, they do mean, in fact, fast. Crossrail is a complex series of rails and tubes with a high-end budget of about $25 billion. But with the amount of service the powers that be have projected, the city will make back all of that money in just a few years. Because sometimes you need to spend billions to make billions. Sections of the Crossrail were on track to open in 2022, but COVID-19 had different plans for that, so Londoners are still awaiting a new opening date. But in the meantime, they can look forward to a more high-tech rail system with faster and more eco-friendly trains that are more reliable and likely to be on time. Number 4. The Orbital Ring. The next megastructure on our list is dedicated to anyone who was told to keep their head out of the clouds when they were young. The Orbital Ring sounds like something from a certain hit sci-fi video game, but British author, scientist, and engineer Paul Birch proposed the structure in 1982, and to him it's a very plausible endeavor for the not-so-distant future. The Orbital Ring is a space elevator that revolves around the Earth in orbit using a rotating cable. The cable is placed in low Earth orbit just above the equator. From there, Birch proposes that the cable will move just a pinch faster than the Earth itself. From here, superconducting magnets are placed on the ring, all of which are connected via even more cables. Only these are made from high tensile strength to mass ratios. Don't you wish you paid better attention in science class? It may sound complicated, but it's really incredibly simple. It's a ring around the Earth that lets you travel all across the globe. The only catch is that you have to get to space first and then back down, and we've yet to find ways to construct it. But if they can build the ISS, then they can probably figure out the orbital ring. And while the whole concept of this megastructure may sound like a $31 billion fever dream of insane proportions, scientists, engineers, and research students have been looking at ways to make this dream a reality for over 40 years, and they have found that, although difficult, it's totally doable. Number 3. FFR Grand Stud. If you've been around the channel for a while, you'll have seen us talking about some of the biggest stadiums in the world. But nothing lasts forever, and even something like the Narendra Modi Stadium in India, the largest in the world, can't stay on top forever, because the FFR Grand Stud in Paris is looking to put it to shame. The Grand Stud is incredibly unique and aims to tackle the biggest problem faced by stadiums. When there's no game, the seats are empty, and empty seats mean $0 in revenue. They quite literally take up too much real estate, so the FFR Grand Stud designers have come up with a stadium with the capacity for 82,000 screaming rugby fans with a fully retractable pitch. Think of it like a steel chair. When you're not using it, you just fold it up and set it aside to use again later. So, in principle, the design is quite simple, but the FFR Grand Stud is much more than a stadium. It's also going to house shops, businesses, even housing right in the heart of southern Paris. It's part of the next generation of multi-purpose stadiums with long-term effectiveness in mind. So now one of the largest stadiums in the world will be able to take its ball and go home when there aren't any games. Number 2. Atlantropa. Also known as Panropa, Atlantropa is one of the wildest megastructures to ever exist. It's an old one, but frankly is yet to be realistically outdone. Cooked up in 1920 by German architect Hermann Sergel, he wanted to create a new continent called Atlantropa as part of his utopian dream. He felt that both Europe and Pan-Asia were too far behind American economics and industrialization and needed a new competitive edge, and thought that Atlantropa was the way to do it. But creating a new continent is insane and just about impossible, but not to Sergel. He thought that all the European and Pan-Asian nations had to do was come together to build a giant hydroelectric dam in key locations in the Mediterranean Sea, causing sea levels to drop and new land to be settled. Yeah, the idea is absolutely crazy, but not too hard to laugh at this day and age. But the man fought for his idea to become a reality for decades. He would have been better off searching for Atlantis, probably. Number 1. Ring worlds. Space is the place, and while it may not happen in our lifetimes, humans will be building megastructures out in the void eventually, and one of those might just happen to be the ring world. The idea for the ring world is to create an artificial ring with a radius equal to the Earth's orbit with a star in the middle, and the ring will spin to create artificial gravity. From there, humans live on even more artificial planets. It's another megastructure that sounds like it belongs in a video game or an old pulp novel, but the likelihood of one existing feels increasingly real as people like Elon Musk insist that humans become a multiple planet species. And while ring worlds has appeared in plenty of popular forms in the media, it's also where many scientists get their ideas for future projects. As it stands now, though, ring worlds are purely speculative, but in a world where Dyson spheres are studied, nothing can be ruled out. And at the rate things are going, we may need a good plan B for the Earth in the near future. But if we're to be realistic about the ring worlds, the amount of energy they need to sustain themselves is so insurmountable that it could take centuries before humans find a solution. As it stands now, the ring world would require a few hundred years worth of our sun's energy to operate efficiently. If these astro megastructures are ever built, us, our children, or our children's children, and even their children will be long gone. But maybe our grandchildren a dozen generations from now may live alongside one. Watch our future playlist for more top 15 videos about the future. Sit back, relax, and binge watch all of our best future-related videos.